Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Decahedron RPG Podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Joe. No James this week. A couple weeks ago, I did an interview with Heather and Keith and talked to them about their gaming experiences in the first 6 months or so of gaming. And one of the questions I asked them was, have you played any other games other than D&D? And their answer was no. And so I thought I would offer to run for them a game of Traveler because it's a classic and the genre of space stuff, science fiction, spaceships, all that stuff is very different from dungeon delving and Dungeons and Dragons. So I made the offer to them and they accepted, and we started making characters, and that became an inspiration for this episode because I was like, let me talk about the house rules I use when making Traveler characters. The main impetus behind most of these house rules is character choice. I like players to have agency when they make a character, right? The old D&D 3d6 down the line, nothing wrong with it. I use it when I do old school D&D, but even then players still have choices, what class am I going to take? What equipment am I going to buy? Stuff like that. So I like open choice. I like games like GURPS and stuff, where you make a full character on a point buy. But I also love that middle ground where you have a lot of character input, but that input is limited by die rolls. And someone said that limitation is a source of inspiration. They probably said a lot better than that, but that's the gist, and I really believe that. And so that's the overall theme behind the house rules. So we'll just go down, we'll pretty much go in order of how you generate a character, and I'll talk about, how we do it differently if so. So the first thing is attribute generation. Actually, I don't do this different at all. I do 2d6 in order, down the line: strength, dex, endurance, intelligence, education, social standing. But, I don't think I would be opposed to just letting the players roll the 6 times and letting them rearrange them any way they want. I didn't make that offer to Heather and Keith. I think in the future, I don't have a problem with that. Let me know what you think. But yeah, I think I'd be okay with that. Section number 2 is your career choices, right? The little black books, they have Navy, Army, Marine, Merchant, Scout, and other. I like to give the players a few more choices, so I also use Supplement 4, Citizens of the Imperium. And that has career paths for, nobles, doctors, flyers, wet navy, rogue, pirate, some others. So I use both of those, but I like to limit the players' choices here, not because I don't want the players to have all the choice in the world, but I think if you are running a spaceship-based campaign where the adventure focuses on the crew of a certain ship, some of those choices don't make a lot of sense. Army and Marines in particular, other kind of wet navy, they don't make a lot of sense. And so I say, just don't use those. The other thing about the careers is the draft. Now, because I'm using a combination of book 1 and book supplement 4 rules, they actually disagree. Book 1, it says if you fail your enlistment roll for the career you want, you have to immediately submit to the draft, which means you roll 1d6 and you're stuck in whatever career you get. In book 4, again, supplement 4, Citizens of the Imperium, it says if you fail, you can immediately try another one. So I do a little bit of both. I say if you fail, you can try another one from, the approved list for that campaign. And when you have exhausted all of those, then you have to submit to the draft. Of course, you can submit to the draft anytime you want before that. Oh, and when I do the draft, It's a modified chart, right? You roll the dice and it's limited to those career fields that would work for the campaign. So again, Navy, Scouts, Nobles, Pirates, things that might make sense. The next thing you do in when you're making character, you you roll for enlistment, you roll for position, you roll for promotion. The pirate ranks, I hate the pirate ranks. So I just use my own. Instead of leader, I use captain. Instead of I think it's lieutenant, I use first mate. And then for the others, I base it on your primary job. So if you are a gunner, you will be chief gunner, gunner's mate, in that order. If you are a navigator, chief navigator, navigator's mate, that type of thing. And that covers the 5 ranks for the pirates. But yeah, I do all those straight by the book, except when it comes to rolling skills. And this is probably the biggest difference I do from the rules. So I don't use the book. The book 4 and 5 and 6, the advanced character generation rules, for a few reasons. One, they take a very long time, right? Instead of rolling what happens for every 4 years, you roll what happens every year. And then not only do you roll for every year, but they've added in rolls like decorations and special assignments that happen every year. And you just end up with all these extra rolls. And because you're rolling all those, you end up with a lot more skills and the characters become a lot more powerful, which if you're doing only from that book, I guess would be okay. But if you say, okay, I'm going to do a Navy character and you're going to do the rules from High Guard, you're going to have a fairly powerful character. But then if another player says, yeah, but I really want it to be, an ex-pirate, so I'm going to use the pirate rules from Supplement 4, Citizens of the Imperium, that character is going to be underpowered. So my options are to generate a whole bunch of rules to make like a pirate supplement, which I don't have time for. Yeah, especially when we're just sitting down to roll up characters. It's easier just to say book 1, Supplement 4. But because now you're getting so many fewer rolls, I mean, you're lucky if you get like 5 terms, 6 terms, right? And so that's only like 6 skills, maybe another 2 or 3 if you get promoted, maybe a few more. You might get lucky on the promotion roll, but you might not. So to make up for that, I let the players not choose their skill, but choose the skill table, which, I mean, yeah, that's what you get to do. For those that never played Traveler, first of all, I should explain. When you get a skill, there are 4 tables that it comes from. One's called personal development, and that's usually like a stat increase or maybe something like gambling or something like that. The next table is called service skills, and they're skills related to what you do, but they're pretty basic stuff. Maybe, I don't know, electronics might be one. I don't know the list off the top of my head. The next table is called advanced education, which I have a problem with that name, but we'll talk about that some other time. And that has like your good skills on it. And then the table underneath that is also called advanced education. That's why I don't like the first one being called that. But that last one, which really is the advanced one, you need an education score of 8 or better to roll on. And that has, also your good and more rare skills. By the book, what you have to do is you have to choose which one of those tables I'm going to roll on, and then you make your roll. It's okay. But what I do is I make the roll first. You roll a 4, and then look at what each one of those things would give you, and that's what you pick. So you would pick one of those 4 options after you know what they are. And like I said, when you're only getting a handful of skills, I think that helps you get the character you want. If you really want to play a pilot, you have a much better chance of getting pilot skill this way than, the by the book method. So that's what I do for skills. Another thing, well, actually, there's one other thing I do with skills. So I said I use Supplement 4, and Supplement 4 has skills there that are listed that are not in Book 1. They have skills there from book 4 and from book 5, which is Mercenary and High Guard. And because I don't play using those books, those skills become kind of pointless. And sure, yeah, you can look it up. You can say, okay, this is what they do. But sometimes what they do is very specific to the rules in that book. And because I don't use the rules of that book, it becomes a wasted skill. So what I'll do in that case is I will just say to the player, you can choose anything else from that table. It's sort of a player's choice option, which, again, I just said I'm in favor of player's choice. The next role you make when making a character is the infamous, the well-known, even people who don't know about Traveller know about the survival role. Yes, Traveller is the role-playing game where your character can die before you ever start to play. While you're making a character, every 4 years, you have to make a roll to see if that character survived. A lot of people hate this rule, and I can understand why, but I think it serves a very important purpose. The survival roll will kill you, but in Traveller, every turn you choose to take gives you at least one more skill, possibly 2 skills, possibly 3 in a really weird way, but usually 1 or 2 skills. So there is no reason for you to not just keep saying, yeah, give me another term, give me another term, give me another term, and just to rack up those skills. So by adding that survival thing on there, it suddenly becomes, oh, it's a risk. Do I want another term or not? It becomes a mental equation. Should I risk it? Should I not? That's why I do it. It gives you that strategic decision to make. It gives you that little should I risk it thrill. Yes, I made it. Oh, that type thing. So I do keep the survival role and I do use it exactly as written straight out of the book.
This is the Robot Overlord. Joe forgot to mention that he does not require a survival roll on a character's first term. He feels that because the player is forced to take that term, it would be unfair to kill the character for it.
For the same reason that I use the survival rolls, I do the aging rolls as well. When in Traveller you hit 34 years old, you have to make a savings throw for your strength, endurance, and dex. And if that saving throw is failed, then that stat goes down by 1. When I was a young kid and I got this book, that made a lot of sense to me. At this side of my life, I'm like 34. That seems rather young, but it's there. And I keep those rules for the same reason, because it's another part that goes in that equation. Do I go for another term or not? In fact, that was the main decision that made Keith stop doing his character when we just generated his, because he got to that term and he would have to start making savings throw, and those stats were already low for him from the dice rolls when he made the character. So pushing that limit, and I did the math, it's like a 60% chance for strength and endurance that they'll go down, and a 40 something percent chance for dexterity. Like I said, his were already low, and in Traveller, those 3 scores are also your hit points. You don't have hit dice. You don't roll hit points separately. It is more or less the sum of those 3. So it's a big gamble. But yeah, I keep those rules. Again, it's another strategic decision. It's another limitation on characters just running up the terms and getting more and more skills. The last thing you do in Traveller, you do the reenlistment roll. I do keep that. I do it straight out of the book. And then there's the mustering out rules, which again, I do straight out of the book. Sometimes I might, depending on the career, say, let you roll and decide which table to pick it from. But if you're, say, like a pirate, I'm not going to give you that choice, because one of the options that you could roll for when mustering out is a -1 social status. And a lot of people would probably just try to avoid that. But it makes sense, because that sort of implies that you got a reputation for being a pirate, kind of a -1, or you got imprisoned or convicted or something. And I think that adds interesting character. The other thing I'm thinking about doing, I did it with Keith. I didn't do it for Heather because she had pretty high scores. If the average of your stats is less than 7, I give you a bonus mustering out roll, because your character is weaker anyway, and it's like, yeah, let's at least give you something, something from the table, either more money or whatever other benefit you might get from the other table. I've been toying with other ways of trying to deal with that. Yeah, I mean, it's not realistic, but I think it's a little balancing, I guess, for you if you have a weak character.
This is the Robot Overlord, again. Joe should have mentioned that he would allow a retired scout to collect a pension even though the book says no. This is because scouts are the least likely to survive, so it only makes sense that the Imperium would give them a pension. Joe does not give retired pirates a pension because that seems weird. He can see it both ways for nobles, but fortunately the situation has never come up.
Anyway, that is all I had to say. That is my house rules for Traveler character generation in a nutshell. I will say that so far they're the only two people. I mean, I haven't posted on Roll20 or anything, but if you're interested in joining us, we haven't set up the schedule yet, so I can't. I mean, that would be the first question that a player would ask. Well, when are you going to play? Yeah, I don't know. But if you're interested, let me know, and I'll run it by them and see if you can join our group. We'll be playing on Roll20, mics, no cameras, probably only like a real mini campaign type thing, one adventure, but we'll do that adventure from start to finish, so however many weeks that takes. Anyway, that's all I have. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think about my Traveler House rules. Let me know if you think there's a problem with any of those. Let me know if you have any that you use that you think are even better. Let me know if you've ever used Supplement 4, Citizens of the Imperium. I really like it. That's one of my favorite Traveler supplements. Yeah, because it adds those extra character classes. Not classes, there I go. Those other career paths, which I think are interesting. To let us know any of that stuff, just send us feedback. You can email us at feedback@decahedron.com. You can call the feedback line. The number is in the show notes. It's in the outro music coming up. You can go to sayhi.chat/decahedron, and all that information is also at decahedron.com. You can go to that website. It's like a little FAQ. It's one page, and somewhere in the middle there it says, how do I leave feedback? And it tells all the ways right there. Again, Decahedron is with a K. Thanks for listening. Until next week, happy gaming, happy life. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Decahedron RPG Cast. We'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a voice message by calling 562-774-2278. That's 562-RPG-CAST. Or by visiting sayhi.chat/decahedron. You can also email us at feedback@decahedron.com. Links are in the show notes. For more information, visit decahedron.com. Remember that Decahedron is spelled with a K. Music is by Kevin MacLeod. Logos by Design Cat. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep those dice rolling.